we're very honored today with this event, and we're very excited for. Is everything okay with the feedback? Okay, we'll fix that in a second. You know, the Frontline Club, we always do our best, but some things can happen, unfortunately. I'll just continue anyway. If someone from my team could go in the back and turn the forum a bit down, that would be great. So yeah, welcome everyone today. We're really, really honored to have Chelsea Manning here, and we're really honored to have. And we do a lot of events like this, so feel free to come at any time. And now, without further ado, it's my great honor to introduce Nym and Chelsea Manning.
All right, hey everyone. Is this thing even necessary? Do I need the microphone? All right. Okay, so I'm Chelsea Manning. I think some of y'all know who I am. Now then, how many? I have a quick question for everyone before we begin. How many of y'all have heard of NymVPN or Nym? Okay, so a fair number of people. Okay, how many of you came here tonight to hear about that? Okay, a fair number of people. Okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. I just wanted to check because there was a little bit of a misunderstanding previously a few weeks ago, and it was a bit of a surprise. I didn't realize some people. This may have been billed as a talk by me, or rather than like a product launch. So many of the journalists here are here for the product launch. Some of the people here are here to hear from me. We're going to give you a little bit of both. Just to placate and to try to deal with some of the mishap that happened with the promotional material for tonight. So you'll definitely hear from me, and you'll definitely hear some of my views in the world, and we'll talk about some of the and I'll even give some of you a chance to be able to ask me questions. We'll see how long we can. We'll see how much we can fit in or deal with that. But in the meantime, there's actually somebody else who's going to be speaking about Nym and NymVPN, that's what this event is the launch event for. Obviously, it was a very big honor for me to be invited to speak at the Frontline Club in 2020 when I was unfortunately unable to come. This is the second time that I was offered to come here, and this time it's for an exciting development in the realm of privacy technology for sure. But I'd like to introduce y'all to a very good friend of mine. Yeah, well, I mean, okay, let's do it. Okay. Just hold on. So since you want me to talk about what happened, so basically what happened is that while I was still in prison in 2016, I sort of recognized, just like everybody else, the creeping creeping infrastructure of surveillance and technology was starting to become even more ascendant and more available and more extremely capable. And it was able to defeat, and increasingly, even private technologies were starting to increasingly be able to defeat our own privacy technology and our own encryption and things like that. So existing VPNs and existing tools like Tor and methods of obfuscating traffic across networks, we're encountering a problem of computation. We recognize that the amount of computation that was going to become accessible in the next decade and a half, which has so far come true since 2010, was going to make it much easier for traffic analysis to be able to decipher anonymity across networks. And one of the ideas that we sort of that a lot of people were exploring, but that I was thinking about while I was in prison in 2016, I started talking to Yan Su, who works at Brave. It's a privacy browser, and she came to visit me, and we started to hash out sort of what would be needed to improve specifically secure drop as a technology. And one of the ways that we were looking at was a form of technology called a mixing network, or a mixnet. which is basically a way of breaking down messages into parts and then sending all of those different parts across a network a network of different layers, and to move those across the network and have them be able to be recombined on the other side without the sender or the receiver even having to identify who they are. And so this kind of technology, along with things like decoy traffic, cover traffic, and the ability to have messages be sent not in an exact order, is an innovation of technology that, while was hypothesized in the 1970s, the computation to be able to actually implement it wasn't really available until the late 2010s. And but nobody was investing or trying to build this technology. And then I encountered Harry Halpin, a very good friend of mine, who this is where he comes in. So Harry Halpin here, Harry Halpin is a very good friend of mine. Yeah, so we met. So we met in 20. So we met in December 2017, and we talked about this issue. And I was like, "Look, I know I just got out of prison, and everything, but you know, you wanted to talk about privacy technology and infrastructure, but you had never really pitched it to like VCs before or to as a startup before, and so."
Hilarious, I was pitching it at Google. I'm sorry. I was pitching it at Google, and like the only person that I recognized in the audience, like, holy shit, that's Chelsea Manning. I felt like a bit embarrassed, and then I was like, Chelsea, is this a good idea? And she's like, yes.
Yeah, so you know, and I showed you that I had also independently come up with a very similar idea, and so I got a little distracted a year later. So I was kind of
Put in prison.
yeah, well, I was jailed. I was jailed for a year, which was a damper on a lot of different things. But while that was but whenever I returned from that, Harry reached out to me and basically said, "Hey, I founded a company. We're working on this. We're working on this project. How would you come to Chelsea? Would you come and review this idea?" So I went and I came, and then I've been working with and alongside NIM to try to come up with the infrastructure for this and to build a product. And I think I can let Harry explain his background and his expertise, and we'll yeah, there we go.
So this is actually.
I'll be back.
Don't worry. She's coming back. Just have to put us up with us for a little bit. So this is actually Chelsea's notes, I believe, from jail. And don't worry, when we had sort of similar thinking, and Google didn't give us any money. I got absolutely zero from that pitch. That was my first ever pitch, but it did make me feel kind of good about myself when Chelsea's like, yeah, you should do this. I was like, okay, cool. Like that was like ethical validation. I'm gonna do this. Next slide. So, and also I had validation from other people. This is me with Julian, hilariously. I luckily avoided the CIA because they misspelled my last name, uh, which is great. And, you know, actually, this is Guy Fawkes night. And I was like, yo, Julian, let's celebrate Guy Fawkes night. I brought a bunch of firecrackers. And he was like, if I go outside to release those firecrackers, I might get shot. I was like, oh, that's like, you sure, Julian? Like, come on. It's a bit bit of an overstatement possibly, but then the Pompeo stuff was released and he was totally right. So, but anyways, so yeah, Julian also was concerned on multiple aspects that we discussed, and unfortunately only, I guess, the US government and some sketchy companies have the records, but effectively there was this concern that at the time, most privacy enhancing technologies were actually funded by the US government to a large extent. And that's fine. There was no other sources of funding at the time. But Julian hypothesized rather correctly that at some point that funding would be cut. I believe it was all cut last week, or a large part of it was cut by Trump. And so Julian's like, we have to build something which is not dependent on the US government, and also can withstand more powerful surveillance capabilities. And I knew Julian was an old cypherpunk. So I was like, how about we build a mixnet? And Julian's like, you know, he was into that. And we had a lot of discussions on that and AI, which that made crypto work in the browser. And when I was doing this, we thought that was really cool, but then we also noticed that it was not sufficient to actually ensure any level of privacy. And the reason it's not sufficient is even if you encrypt your messages, you talk to your bank or using, the little TLS, transport layer security, that little lock in your browser, or, you use a VPN, or you even use Signal, the fact of the matter is that end-to-end encrypted messages leave a trace. And this is concerning. I did my PhD up in Edinburgh on AI. So it's like, okay, we know we can infer a lot of data about someone from who they're talking to, when and where. That being said, we saw a lot of great work. Brave, uh, clearly becoming very popular, focusing on privacy. Signal, I remember people were discussing, oh, no one's using Signal 2016. Now it's skyrocketing. I hope all of you, if you haven't, please change the Signal. Stop using WhatsApp. Stop using every other messenger. And so we saw there's tons of interest in privacy tech. But this metadata problem, the problem of leaving this trace where you're online that can be monitored by all sorts of folks, from the government agencies like the NSA, companies like Palantir that are often on contracts to governments, cyber criminals, Russia, China. I think one of our advisors back there monitored, did traffic analysis using some computers in Cambridge up for very cheap 10, 20 years ago. This is becoming increasingly easy to do, and this is quite dangerous. Next. So the reason it's dangerous is because, as the Snowden revelations revealed, if you have enough metadata, you don't really need the content. If you read the first paper, which no one reads, by Julian Assange, the kind of precursor to WikiLeaks, he wrote a little PDF, and he basically said, look, the problem is that the governments and the NSA, they're looking at our social networks, who's talking to who, and they're identifying us based on those social networks. And maybe we could turn the table on them. And he's like, I'm going to write a second paper of that. Instead, I guess he made WikiLeaks, which is cool. Maybe one day he'll write that second paper. We're all waiting. But nonetheless, the NSA said we should not underestimate the extraordinary power of metadata. Researchers at MIT and Imperial College showed that you can predict like 80% of behavior just looking at who's talking to who, how much, when, and where. And I find that incredibly frightening. And then the NSA all said, yeah, we kill people based on metadata. So, they can launch drone strikes, so forth and so on. Hopefully no one here, but you never know, right? Next. So we built something to defeat metadata, and, Chelsea was thinking about it. David Chaum invented the general technique in the 1970s. It's called a mixnet, and what we built is a noise generating network. And so the way you want to think about it is, if you have AI, and AI can discover patterns in any kind of data, right? It does pattern analysis. It finds the signal in the noise. There's no reason you can't do the reverse. There's no reason you can't just add noise to whatever it is you're doing to kind of fake out the AI-driven surveillance. And so in 2014, everyone was quite mad at the NSA, and the EU put out a call for funding, and they said, hey, could anyone build something that's kind of like a VPN, but actually defends, Angela Merkel's phone? And then we said, sure, yeah, we can do that. And so researchers at KU Leuven, who are here, University College London, who are also here, you can raise your hands if you want. We got an EU grant called Panoramics. We got another one on called NextLeap. EPFL eventually jumped in, and there was a breakthrough. And the breakthrough was from Anya, who you're going to hear from next. But her and George, with a few other folks, built a system called Loopix. And the problem is that mixnets have been very inefficient, and they've been very slow. And so the people who designed Tor and other technologies said that's ridiculously slow. And we said, well, now the internet's faster, so we could build something that might be actually usable by human beings. And so we took the basic concepts and we reworked them. And we said, how is it that we can make something that's like also sustainable, that doesn't depend on US government funding, that is sustainable for the people who are running the computers and for the users? And we designed what we call the NYM network. Next. And we're still working with all these wonderful people making this NYM network better and better. So I'm just going to mention who they are since they've done a good amount of work. Agalos Kias from University of Edinburgh helps us with blockchain. George Denises, University College London, invented the packet format that we all use called Sphinx. Ben Laurie, who I suspect some of you may know, worked a lot on TLS and is now at Google. Bart Purnell from KU Leuven, Carmelo Troncoso working on traffic analysis. Daniel Bernstein, who invented with Tanya Long most of modern cryptography. Karthik Bhagavan, who invented this thing called TLS 1.3 and is working, formally verifies all sorts of things. And I think some of you are in the audience. There's the Cambridge crew and Alistair Beresford up in Cambridge, him and his students are doing wonderful work, making them better. So we're very committed to building, and we're not good salespeople. This is the best I think the most we've ever tried, because we actually built something that works. But we are really committed to building technology that delivers genuine privacy, because people like Chelsea and Julian and probably many people here have been targeted, and we want that technology to be widely available to everyone, not just people who are paranoid, but normal people, so that they are never targeted. And this is why we built the noise generating network. And I think Anya should probably would do a better job than me at explaining it.
Thanks so much, Harry. Thanks so much, Harry. I hope my voice won't give up on me completely for the next 10 minutes, and I will be able to introduce you to the technical nitty-gritty details about the noise generating network which we've built. So what is noise, and how did we build the noise generating network? In order to achieve that, we combined 3 key components. Each of these components brings critical functionalities into our network, which allow us to protect your privacy online, and especially the metadata associated with your online activities. So, starting with the first one, the multi-server routing. What does that mean? In contrast to your normal online communication, we do not forward your internet traffic directly to the destination. Instead of that, your traffic is routed via multiple servers. Those servers are run by independent node operators. This means that no single server or single entity can correlate your IP address with your online activities. So imagine that we're all in this room messengers, and we pass a note. We pass a note from multiple messengers. Each one of you can see from whom you received the note and where you passed it, but none of you can see the full journey of the note. So none of you can tell where this note originated and where it's gonna end up. And this is very important because we remove this single point of trust and the single point of control, which would be able otherwise to correlate and trace very easily your network identity with all the online activities which you're doing. But routing your traffic via multiple servers is not enough, because all of your online activities have kind of like a distinctive online digital footprint. This footprint is like a pattern which allows to identify each and every one of you uniquely among all the traffic flowing through the internet. So what do we do to counter it? We mask your real communication with the covered traffic. A covered traffic is a fake type of randomly generated traffic streams which are injected among your real communication. And what it ensures is that it becomes very difficult to single out any individual patterns and traces associated with a single person performing online operations. So you can think about it as an example. Now I'm speaking, or trying at least, and you can very easily say that I am the one doing the talking. But if we would all start talking at exactly the same time, it becomes very difficult to pinpoint who is the person who is saying a particular thing. And that's where the covered traffic comes. Now, multi-server routing and covered traffic are still not enough to fully protect the metadata of your communication. We still need packet mixing. Why? Because there is additional feature associated with your communication, and that is the timing and the ordering of your flows online. So what we do is that the servers who are routing your traffic, instead of just blindly taking it and forwarding as the packets are coming, instead they shuffle the packets associated with your communication a little bit like a deck of cards. So what is happening is now that when we all start communicating via the network, the individual streams of our traffic are being mixed together, making tracing and identifying individuals across the network practically impossible. So now when we know how the network operates, let's look a little bit like how can we use it. We introduced the noise, and now how can we benefit from it? So the NIM network operates in two modes. There's the two-hop decentralized VPN mode, which we refer sometimes to as fast mode, and that's what you're gonna see later on. And we also have the 5-hop mixed-net mode, which we refer very often to as anonymous. So what are their features and benefits? In the two-hop mode, your traffic is routed via two independent servers. The entry node sees your network location, meaning your IP address, but then it only sees the encrypted traffic and has no idea where it's going. The exit server sees from whom it received the traffic, but it cannot tell anything about the originating sender, and it only knows that it should forward the traffic to a particular online destination. This already brings you an advanced privacy compared to traditional VPNs, which operate with a single server. Because when you have a single server, this server can see both your network location, your IP address, and all the history of your online activities. And it can very easily map your entire profile. So with the two-hop VPN, you already are gaining much better privacy than any of the existing VPN providers which are out there. But the two-hop VPN will not fully obfuscate your metadata because it does not combine all three features which I just mentioned a moment ago. That's where the mixednet comes. So our 5-hop mixednet mode ensures that your traffic is routed via 5 independent servers. Now, similarly as in the two-hop mode, there's the entry server and the exit, but in between there are 3 randomly selected mix nodes. Those mix nodes perform this shuffling operation, which I described you a moment ago. And this ensures that your traffic cannot be traced, even if we're going to deploy a very sophisticated AI-based surveillance. So now when we know how the NIM network operates, how the packets are routed through it, what are the modes, how does it kind of fit in the map of the existing privacy solution for online privacy? Throughout the years, there have been many solutions proposed and deployed, starting from traditional VPNs, the centralized ones, but those VPNs mostly focus on protecting the content of your communication, but not in metadata. They cannot obfuscate your communication patterns, and because they rely on a centralized server, this server will know exactly the link between your IP address and your online history. So that's when Tor came, the groundbreaking design introducing decentralized anonymous communication. And Tor was kind of like this breaking point on which a lot of modern privacy enhancing networks started building upon, including them. So our two-server decentralized VPN mode can be seen a little bit similar to the Tor network, because similarly as Tor, we offer the multi-hop routing. We obfuscate the IP address from which you're connecting online. We are fragmenting your online activities among many routes. But this is not enough to protect fully your online presence and the metadata. The 5-server mixnet, the mode in which our network also operates, can provide you the full package. So it's going to protect both the content of your communication, but also the metadata, even in the presence of machine learning traffic analysis. So it's actually quite nice because this whole thing which we're describing right now, it's not anymore just like a theoretical design on a piece of paper. It's an actual global network of privacy providing nodes running currently. So we have more than 500 independent node operators running the network right now. Those node operators are distributed in more than 50 countries, ensuring that all the information associated with your online communication is really spread globally. And the node operators, they are top tier. They're providing very high performance infrastructure, which is very nicely reflected in the very impressive speeds of our especially two-hop VPN mode. Yeah. So I described you the technical overview, and now I'm going to hand it to Jaya, who will show you a little bit how this all works in practice.
Great. So first of all, thanks again for the patience. And it's getting quite hot in here, and I know a lot of you guys are standing. And we just went through some quite dense technical material. So that is the most dense bit of the presentation. But I think we managed to kind of do it very, very clearly in words. We're now going to see it kind of play out in visuals. So as Anya mentioned, we've got a global network of operators who've actually helped us make this software come alive and be an actually usable system. We're very proud of that network. It's a very vibrant ecosystem, an ecosystem of people of all different kinds. We've got, sysadmins that have been around for, decades, that have been, fighting for privacy and digital rights. We've got Web3 infrastructure operators that have formed, profitable and professional businesses actually running infrastructure. And we also have very ambitious and incredibly talented university students from computer science departments across the world. So it's a wonderful community. And we thought we would just give a couple minutes over to one such crew who are based in Rio. And they have built, apart from running infrastructure, they've also built a visualizer to actually show, when we say noise, and we're talking about packet mixing, and we're using all these technical terms, what do we actually really mean? What does that look like in reality? So if you'll just bear with us, let's have a look at the demo that they produced for this launch. Is the audio working on the?
Can you turn the forum audio up, please?
Yeah.
One sec.
Start it again. Pause it for a minute until they get it fixed.
Okay, otherwise I'll just explain what's happening in the video.
Are you guys ready?
Can I get a thumbs up if we think it's possible?
We're ready.
Okay, we got it.
Guys, I'm Gabriel, also known as Super Maya, and today I'm going to talk to you about NYM in Latin America. So this is our squad. It's called the Tupiniquim Squad, and the core of the squad is formed by 7 people, but we're much more working to get privacy moving forward in Brazil and Latin America. Now I'm going to show you guys a recorded demo of the NymVPN. So here on the top left, you can see packets leaving the machine in real time. So each circle is a packet leaving your machine, and the size of the circle is corresponding to the size of the packet. And on the bottom left, you can see the amount of packets over time that left your machine. So let's say you're a journalist and you just saw you're accompanying a war and you saw a soldier called David committing a war crime, and you want to report that to the world, but you're going to do it over a normal internet connection or a normal VPN. So you took this picture, you're going to send it, and then when you hit send, you're going to see on the top left, a bunch of huge green circles are going to come around. Those huge green circles are the screen leaving your PC. There you see it. And on the bottom left, you see a huge spike in the number of packets that left your PC. So if somebody is surveilling the net, they can clearly see that you sent a big file to somewhere in the world. Now, if you were to use the NymVPN in the anonymous mode using the mixnet, that would be a different picture. With the NymVPN active, you're able to see that on the top left, there's a bunch of huge circles now. What are these huge circles? They're fake packets that are constantly leaving your machine, creating fake traffic, and that invalidates any form of pattern that you could draw from the traffic leaving your machine. So on the top left, you see these huge circles constantly leaving, and on the bottom left, you see there's a huge spike, and now there's like thousands of packets leaving your machine constantly. So now you're reporting again. You just saw a dubious war weapon. Somebody built a shield that turns people into stone, and you want to report it to the world. So you're going to report it, but this time you're going to do it through the NIM mixnet. So when you write your article and you hit send and you send the image, you're going to see that you can't trace any patterns at all on the top left or on the bottom left. The traffic stays the same. There's a bunch of dummy traffic, and the real traffic blends in the dummy traffic. Here's a side by side so you guys can see it better. The image is going to be sent now, and on the left you can see the spike in circles and spike in packets sent, and on the right you can see the constant flow of packets. So there's no way you can draw any patterns from this. This was our demo. Thank you guys very much for listening to us. And goodbye from Latam. And let's go NymVPN.
And by the way, they're all watching in Rio right now. So.
Yeah, the community is all with us, and if we have any questions after for the community, feel free, and we'll pass on the questions and get responses. You have a question already, very keen. Yeah. Can you hold that thought, because we want to just get through the. Is that okay?
Well, you'll be first.
Thank you. So just to wrap up a little bit about the NIM network. NIM network is the new future for privacy online. Similarly, as many years ago, encryption became a default tool to provide privacy of your communication in terms of the confidentiality of the data which you're transferring online. Now, NIM network has a potential to become the default to protect your online privacy and your metadata. So it all starts with the NymVPN app, which Mark, our head of product, in a moment will introduce. And it's a single app which allows people anywhere around the world to access and benefit from the privacy properties of our network. But NIM is not just a VPN, it's a privacy-enhancing technologies which can protect the metadata associated with any type of online activities, from secure messaging, web browsing, financial transactions, and so on. And more than that, more than just facing the individual users, NIM network opens door to B2B integrations, where we can provide privacy solutions by default to various industries from healthcare, legal services, and telecommunications. So we all believe that privacy is the basic right, and we want to provide a solution which is gonna be accessible to everyone in any type of online situations. So now, Mark, gonna introduce you to the NymVPN app.
Thank you, Anya, and good evening, everyone. So I'm Mark, I'm just the product guy, so I know you're here for Chelsea, so I'll try to be quick. Okay, so for a very long time, as Anya said, like VPN have been kind of a privacy band-aid. And today what we want to do is introduce something that's better, that's different. We want to introduce the world's most secure VPN, and this is NymVPN. So NymVPN is an app that's like all NymVPN app routes all the traffic you have on your device, routes that through the NIM network, hides your IP address, and then protects your metadata. It's available starting today on all your mobile and desktop platforms, and you can grab it from major from major app stores, including privacy-focused one like F-Droid. When we built NymVPN, we didn't want NymVPN to be we didn't want NymVPN to be an app that you turn on and off all the time. We wanted NymVPN to be kind of a privacy companion that protects all your use cases. So, you turn on the anonymous mode that routes the traffic through the mixnet, and it ensures that you have maximum privacy for your messaging, emails, or financial transactions. Sometimes you may want to have higher performance. For example, when you want to browse on the internet or stream the NIM keynote. For those occasions, the fast WireGuard mode has you covered. It has high performance and everyday privacy, better than most VPNs. When we built NymVPN, the idea was not to pack it with like every single feature that other VPN offers, but be like the most secure VPN out there. That's why NymVPN is open source, both the apps and the Rust backend. That's why it's security audited every year. That's why you have a kill switch. When you have a loss of the network, it protects the data and avoids leaking your identity. And because we believe in an open internet, we also have a full roadmap of censorship resistance features, such as Amnezia WireGuard that protects you against deep packet inspection. Okay, we believe privacy is not for a few, we believe privacy is for everyone. And NymVPN is not just another app, it's an app for everyone. It's an app for you guys, it's an app for me, it's an app for journalists that want to protect their sources, it's an app for everyday people that want the best privacy on the market. So that being said, we're very happy that NymVPN usage is like picking up like crazy. We have multiple users in multiple geographies, like very diverse set of people using the product. And Jay is going to tell us about some story of the community, how they're using NymVPN every day in the world.
Hello again. Yes, talking about the real world. So when you build a VPN like NymVPN, I mean, we're not just a company that makes software. it's been part of also growing the network, as I spoke about earlier. Actually building the app itself has also been a huge community involvement, because this is something that's quite novel and new. So the community has been actively involved in testing the app. So that includes speed testing, but also, of course, censorship resistance testing in China and Russia. We have communities that are active in Ukraine. We have communities that we are testing within Syria, in Ecuador, Brazil. Myanmar is something that we only just heard about last week. It just kind of popped up on our radar in an article in Hacker Noon. We weren't aware that we had a community in Myanmar, but apparently the VPN in its beta form, the free kind of beta version that we've been using for testing, became very popular when the junta imposed the VPN blackout in February. So it ended up being one of the most downloaded VPNs over there, because we are a decentralized VPN and it just has different kind of usability at this day and time. So it's just to say that building an app like this is something that is kind of already happening in collaboration with our ecosystem out there in the world. We do have, do you want to go to the next slide, please, Jack? So we have, this is Yana, it's one of our employees from Ukraine. And she is working with the community in Kiev. They've formed a kind of their own independent group called Rawbox, because they kind of want to take the NYM network a little bit further than the VPN app itself, and they're actually developing a router that has the network already integrated. So we have a little bit of technical difficulties also with the videos today. So unfortunately, we're not going to play this video, but Yana and Rawbox crew is also listening in. Okay, let's give it a try.
And today I'm representing here Ukrainian community and especially the squad, which is called Rawbox. Before I dive into Rawbox, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind, and that is why we in Ukraine are really looking forward to NymVPN. Because let's be real, there is no such thing as too much privacy during the wartime. And we know that Russia has incredibly advanced surveillance systems, and traffic analysis is one of the key tools for tracking people and communication. The New York Times reported just 2 years ago that these exact tools are being used in the occupied Ukrainian territories. And that's not some abstract concern, it's real, it's happening, and it's affecting the people's lives. And here the same, there is no other technology out there that truly protects against traffic analysis, except NYM. That's why we are excited for NymVPN, because the more people use it, the more noise we generate, and the stronger our collective privacy becomes. In Ukraine, we know how important it is to stay united and to stay strong in the common goals. And now we are relying on all of you, the NymVPN users all around the world, to help strengthen the privacy and security for everyone. And also on you, the journalists, to spread the word, because privacy matters and people need to know that they have the way to protect themselves. And with this in mind, I'm passing the word to the founder of the Rawbox, Alexander.
Hi, my name is Alexander Kiri. I'm from Bitcoin community in Ukraine. Today, NYM is the most advanced network layer privacy technology. If you use it, you have an advantage over the other people or countries. If you don't use it, you are vulnerable, as privacy has no borders. So it makes sense to use NYM for people from all over the world in general and in Ukraine specifically, especially now. NymVPN is a ready-made solution already available for all common devices. And at Rawbox, we built a router with NYM integrated to it. And of course, we want to bring the privacy by default to every people's home. Yeah, and now I'm passing my word to Beyond.
Thanks. My name is Beyond. I have been an active part of the NYM community for 2 years.
I will keep it short. Grab a token, get a new VPN, and long live privacy.
All right, so next slide, please. Yeah, so that is all to kind of give a little bit of an insight into the fact that NIM is not just an academic exercise. It's not just a software company. We are, part of a global ecosystem that are working together in order to make something like this happen. Next slide, Jack. And that is also expressed in the kind of community and chat channels. So we've got channels of over 16 languages. Many of those are actually run by the community themselves. Go on, next slide. And here's where I'm going to hand over to Rob to get to the real meat of the matter.
All right. So let's speak very concretely about how you can get NIM. We have decided to price NymVPN on par with other VPNs. And the logic behind that is that we want to make it accessible. We want to make it accessible to everyone. And for the same price as any other VPN, you get the world's most secure VPN. Essentially that's the idea. So you can switch for that price to a VPN that finally fulfills the promise that VPNs have been making for years and not actually delivering on. So you got 3 plans, the 1-month plan, the 1-year plan, and the 2-year plan. And starting at $5.49, you can pay with pretty much every main cards out there, as well as crypto, so Bitcoin, Monero, and the native NIM token. Next slide. As you have understood probably by now, NymVPN is innovating in all sorts of ways when it comes to the product itself, but also when it comes to how you pay and how you actually access the product. So you have a problem with existing VPNs as a user, which is that when you sign up, you need to give your name and your email address to sign up for the product. What that means is that your name and your email address are actually connected to your online activity. Technically, other VPN companies, can link your name and your email address to what you do online, even though everyone promises that they don't. So what we have developed is a sign-up system where you don't use any email, don't use your name, you basically disappear. Instead of that, you have a 20-word access code, which is how you connect to the VPN, to NymVPN, in a way that separates your identity from your online activity. So that's one big chunk of security added. That is not enough. So we added an extra layer to that. When you buy a VPN, you have either your credit card information, or if you pay with crypto, your crypto wallets information that are actually connected to your account. So we have developed something called anonymous access credentials. And that works by cutting the link between your financial informations and your account. So I'm a buyer of a VPN. I buy with a credit card or a crypto. I send my money to NIM, and what NIM creates is that anonymous access credentials that are then given to me. And these anonymous access credentials are sent to the servers to let the servers know that you can access the servers and use the product. Think about it a little bit like going to an amusement fair. You go to the entrance of the amusement fair, you pay with your card and you get tickets. You go to the fair and you buy a hot dog with your tickets, and you go and you buy and place in a roller coaster with your ticket. There is no way for people to know with these tickets who went in the roller coaster. This is pretty much how the system works for anonymous access credentials. So here we go. I've been talking about how you access the product and about these 24 words access code that is replacing your name. So most of you have on your chairs flyers where you have a QR code to download the VPN and a QR code where each of you have their individual anonymous code. So you can go ahead, take your flyers, and give it a go. Just a little note here. We launched the product today, and we're having kind of a great problem, which is huge success. So the servers are getting quite busy. So it might take around 30 to 40 seconds to connect today only. So go ahead.
Okay, and that's not quite a wrap. We're going to hand the word over to Chelsea again, because I think a lot of you are keen to hear more.
All right, folks. All right. So a lot of y'all have come to see NIM, and it's also a very good. I mean, it's a very good project, and I think it's important to remember that whenever it comes to privacy tech people, including myself, we're not salespeople. Okay, we're not very good at selling things, and I think that's a good thing. Obviously we are very focused on privacy and on the technical capabilities, and to produce something that is actually going to be used and protect you from all the various threats out there. And I think it's important to pull things back because even though we're talking about this abstract concept of privacy and surveillance and things like that, these are real actual cases in which people have, many people across the world have been impacted by the surveillance apparatus, by whether it's the state, whether it's by private corporations, and the blending of the two that we've increasingly been seeing in recent years. Certainly, you can look at the geopolitical situation throughout the world that we've seen over the last 15 years in particular, and at the instability where we're now increasingly in a world where a U.S. presidential election can vastly change the geopolitical landscape overnight, impacting billions of people who all use various forms of technology. And there's a certain amount of uncertainty that comes with that with that political change that happens, where you don't know whether or not the phone that you use is safe. You don't know whether or not the country that you're a part of is aligned with this set of countries or that set of countries. And in that political instability, and in that uncertainty, and in that an environment where faith in institutions that have existed for the last century is tested and questioned, and people have this sense or this vibe of the world being so uncertain and being so unclear and being so uncomfortable, because we need to be able to communicate with each other. We need to be able to take in information. We need to be able to think critically. We need to be able to analyze and look at the world that we're in, and decide where we fit as people in society, and how we connect with people, and how we feel about each other, and how we communicate with each other. Because I think that what has happened in the last 15 years in particular, since I went to prison, and since I came out of prison, and since since I got locked up a second time, and since the second time, and then obviously all of the geopolitical uncertainty and the politics, everybody feels freaking overwhelmed. It is exhausting. We feel exhausted all the time. And the thing that's changed everything the most in the last 15 years is this little rectangle that we keep in our pockets, that we're just this little glass screen that we're scrolling at. And this technology is all about time. It's about your data and your time, because at some point these companies figured out that what they want you to do is they want you to engage, and they want you to sit and scroll and scroll and scroll, and your time is the commodity. Your time and your attention has become a commodity, and that time and attention, we have to take that back. We have to take the time and attention back. And that's one of the things that I figured out in the last few years, especially. This is one of the reasons why I've taken a step back from sort of being a public figure and posting on social media, and being a part of the surveillance apparatus and contributing to that, is because I realized the things that I say were, especially online, were being turned into a product. And my time was being commodified, and a lot of very, very rich and very, very powerful and very, very large very rich people and very large corporations and large governments, they want your time. They want to take every shred of every second of your time. And they have that portal right there in your pocket. And the reason why they want your time is because every single swipe that you make, every single micro second that you spend engaging with content or being monitored, or because every second that you're on some of these apps, down to the microsecond, the 1/1,000,000th of a second is measured, and they're able to determine so much about you based on that. That's how those scrolling video apps work as they go down. Is that it's about how fast you are at scrolling. The microseconds that occur between that can determine your age, your gender, your religion, your political beliefs, and that's how they're able to determine what content you want to see. Like, you don't have to share any information about yourself. They've already identified so many things about you, and even can identify specifically who you are, even if you're using a different account, based on the microseconds that it takes for you to scroll on a screen. And so that's why privacy technology has become not just important, but has become a foundational necessity in a world in which people want their power back, and they don't know how. We don't even know how to communicate with each other anymore. I don't know how. When I'm walking down the park, when I'm walking in the park, regardless of where it is in the world, I see people scrolling on their phones, and I don't know how to engage with my friends anymore. I don't know how to engage with my family anymore. So I realized that taking that time back for me, from a philosophical and an emotional and a spiritual, I think that there's a spiritual aspect to it as well, where I value my time because I've had so much time taken away from me. I value my time, and I don't want to give that time over, even the microseconds, over to Jeff Bezos or to Mark Zuckerberg or to some other, Elon Musk or whoever. Like, that's my time, and I want to spend that time with my family. I want to spend that time with my friends, and I want to spend that time engaging with art and history and music and really engage with each other, because the human element is what's gotten so messed up and so muddled up in the world that we live in. And it's this, and we become so dependent on technology, but those tech companies become dependent on us. And the way that we stop the way that we stop being a commodity to them is we put a mask on ourselves. We say we're not gonna engage with this anymore. We're gonna hide. We're gonna go into the dark forest. We're gonna let all of the bots take over the internet, but we're gonna exist in the real world together. And I know that. I know that that's a hard thing to hear. I know that's like a hard thing to hear because we've been trained to just sort of engage with these like devices constantly, and it's making me, I've been saying on various podcasts and various videos, like from 2017 to around 2022, whenever I had a book tour, and I learned a lot from that book tour about sort of how this engagement system works and how our time has been turned into a commodity. But like, I don't think it really resonated with people at that point. And maybe I knew in an intellectual sense and at an intellectual level, how important this stuff was. But then I had like this spiritual reawakening that happened, where I was just like, no, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of scrolling on this stupid device. I'm tired of of having my words be sort of twisted and turned into a product and engaging with, I don't even know who anymore. Am I engaging with a person on the other side of the screen? Am I engaging with misinformation? Am I engaging with disinformation? And we're so overwhelmed. And I think that that's what's happened in the last world. That's what's happened in the last 5 years in particular to us. In the last 5 or 6 years, people have become so overwhelmed and so tired that it's shaped our geopolitical landscape, and it's shaped our engagement with each other, and it's shaped our political views, because we've essentially, people often ask me, especially after the 2024 election, like, what happened in the United States and what's happening in Europe? Why is there this populist energy, and why is there this populist rage that's building up? And people look at it and they say, oh, okay, like there's a reactionary element that's sort of bubbling up in Europe, It's a reaction to immigration. It's a reaction to it's a reaction to it's a reaction to like to various terms that they use, like wokeism, or some kind of abstract political concept, or whether it's vaccines or whatever. But like that is the algorithm that has trained us to focus on these things, because what we're really looking for and what we're really trying to do is we're trying to connect with each other again, because that's what we've been lost. That's what's been lost to us. Like they've turned our ability to engage with each other and connect with each other, and that loss of that, they've turned into a product, and you're the product. So if there's anything that you take away tonight from, you know, I know that this is a product launch. I know that this is for a VPN. I know that this is for something that seems like very abstract, but like it's not an abstract thing. It's this thing. These are our shields up. These are our ways of protecting ourselves from I don't even know who anymore. Is it the United States? Is it Russia? Is it a Silicon Valley corporation? Is it my neighbor? Like, who are we trying to protect ourselves from anymore? Like, is it a bot? Is it an AI? Like, I don't even know. Like, I struggle to know, and I'm a pretty engaged person. So I go out into the world and I engage with the world again. I engage with art. I engage with. I like to go to Carnegie Hall. I like to go to the park. I like I started looking at birds again, because you know what? Like, I don't need to see something on a screen at 60 FPS, 4K on my screen at a portrait. Is that the term instead of landscape? Yeah, it's portrait. And portrait, like what are we doing? What are we doing in our society? What are we doing with each other? And I think that's what has caused the polarization in the world is we want to engage with each other, and we want to live in a society where we have values again, because we started to realize that none of the political movements and none of the political parties and none of the political systems that we've been engaging with and that we have no trust in anymore, that we have no, I mean, and that is in the numbers, that's in the statistics, that's in the polls that we've seen, is that in, institutional belief is at an all-time low globally, not just in the UK, not just in Europe, not just in the United States, but globally. And I think a large aspect of that is the fact that they have no values. We're looking for value and connection again. And if there's one thing that you take away tonight, even if you don't really care about a VPN and you don't really care about a lot of very complicated cryptography ideas and a lot of very, very overwhelming feelings that you get when you're engaging with this technology, take away this. The one thing that they cannot take away from you ever, and I know because I've sat in a cell for a year just there in my thoughts, is hope. There's always a well of hope deep within inside of you, and there's always that want and that desire for connection with each other. Because when I was in the military, when I was in a war zone, I was able to empathize with people. I was able to see people. I was able to see other human beings and value them. And when we are turned into a product and we have our ideas and our thoughts commodified, we don't want to connect with people anymore. We don't want to engage with people. We stop seeing each other as people. We start seeing each other as identifiers, as brands. I mean, look at TikTok, for instance. It's just brand after brand, and you see people are shaping their entire personalities and their entire lives to the algorithm and to engaging with that. I've seen it with art as well and music. Like, we're just playing to the algorithm. Let's just engage with each other again. If there's anything that you take away tonight, it's that we need to stop engaging with apps and start engaging with each other. Thank you.
So before we get to the question part where we open the floor to you guys, we want to invite a very special guest up. I'm going to let Rob do the introductions, but we are engaging with organizations that we think we can absolutely trust and that we highly value in this world. So over to you, Rob.
Thank you very much. As you've heard from Chelsea, what we're really talking about tonight is another way for the internet as well. And more broadly than that, another way for how we interact and see each other. We have started building a burgeoning relationship with Doctors Without Borders, which we are trying to help in every way we can. So I'm going to pass on the mic to Mario, who is the head of partnerships for Doctors Without Borders.
Thank you. So my name is Mario, and I've been with Doctors Without Borders for quite some time. I'm sure you all know the organization, or most of you at least. We're a humanitarian organization. We're an emergency medical organization, and a lot of what has been said, a lot of words, a lot of concepts, a lot of ideas that have been mentioned tonight is something that is also part of our reality. And one of the things that I do is today in Doctors Without Borders, I try to leverage blockchain, and I try to see how blockchain can support our activities and our operation. So why am I here? Well, first of all, just because NIM has been wonderful and has decided to put quite a lot of crypto into a project that is generating funds to support our emergency response worldwide. And I think they deserve a clapping for that, first of all. But so why them and why us? And I think the answer is quite simple. The answer, for me, it's in two things. It's in principles and values. I'm not going to go back on the importance of data and protecting data, but when we have patients around the world where we have female patients that decide to go for a termination of pregnancy, and this is data that a lot of people will try to put their hands on, and this is something that we need to protect. When we operate in a war zone and our medical data shows that women and children are being targeted, or shows that some specific limbs are being targeted because we want to handicap a whole generation, protecting that data is quite important. So having the possibility and the ability of relying on a partner like NIM, who sees the world a bit like the way we see it, is quite exceptional. And this is why we are here. This is why we're very happy to start this relationship, which I hope will be the beginning of something quite bigger. I'm not going to take much of your time, but I think it's important to mention also that we're in a world today where international solidarity, which basically only means caring for others, is completely under threat and under attack. I'm not going to bore you, it's not the topic today, but I'm sure you've seen in the news information about US cuts to international solidarity, to international aid. I just returned from Eastern Chad, was at the border with Darfur in Sudan, and I could see what that meant. That meant that 47,000 people sitting in a camp had no support, had no services, because other organizations who used to work along ourselves, and we are lucky because we do not rely on US money, are being forced to cease their operations, are being forced to stop, are being forced to reduce. And that means that we find ourselves more alone. And what does that mean? It means we need to generate more funds, among other things. We need to mobilize more resources to be able to support that. And it's through initiatives like the partnership that we have now with NIM that we're going to be able to do that. I want to finish by saying it's a global attack on international solidarity today. It's not just about US cuts. A lot of governments are cutting the envelopes that they use for aid. And that means that we need, as a community, to find the means and to find the support elsewhere. So to be able to partner with NIM is quite fantastic. Some of the countries that they mentioned are countries where we are present, where we operate, where we work. And I think that it's just the beginning of a longer path that we're going to take together. I just want to finish by letting you know, maybe reminding some of you who know, that our organization was created by doctors, but not only doctors, but also by journalists. And that apart from our medical action, speaking out and letting giving people a voice or speaking on their behalf when they're not able to speak is a core part of our mandate and of our action. So obviously, when this is threatened and when trying to get you the message and letting you know what is happening and the way it's happening, we stand in solidarity with all such actions. And once more, and I'll finish with that, I just want to thank those wonderful people who are supporting our organization. And let's see where we go from here. Thank you.
Okay, so any last word? No. Okay, so we've finally come to the moment where you get to ask NIM team or Chelsea or Doctors Without Borders any questions you like. There was one question that we already had here, and then we'll go over to you next. Do we have a roaming mic? I think we've got a roaming mic there.
Hello. Sorry, my name is Natalie. Thank you for the chat. Sorry, my native language is Spanish. I will try to ask the question. I hope you can understand me. Yes, I had my concerns about the security about information. Because, for example, he controlled information. Because for one hand, we can have privacy. But on the other hand, what happens if we can encourage, for example, communication between terrorists or between human traffickers? Who control that information? This is my concerns.
Yeah. So, I mean, anyone's welcome to answer, but I'm happy to take this one as well. So there is the way that we view communications is like a kind of a utility that everybody needs, right? Everyone needs secure communication, just like everyone needs clean water. So it's kind of one of these things that if you want to do it properly and you want to do it securely, it needs to be available to everybody. So just like you can't kind of selectively choose, or poison the kind of village well because criminals might drink the water, it's a little bit the same with secure communications on the internet, unfortunately. So it's, for us to be able to provide secure communications, it needs to be done properly, which means that we actually don't have control over the information that runs through the network. It's a decentralized network by design in order to exactly secure the privacy promises that we're actually making. So yeah. Anything to add to that? Over here. Yeah, it's coming your way.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sunna Ævarsdóttir. I'm a former pirate MP from Iceland. Great fan of your work. It's really wonderful. I have one very practical question and then maybe just a very brief statement. So the practical question is just, I think it's so important what you're doing. And I wonder if it would be possible. I know with your 24-word access code, maybe it's not possible, but would it be able to increase the subscription fee so that you could give it for free for people that really need it, like in Ukraine or Russia or something like that? You could add this on top.
Absolutely. So that's a really great question. Thank you for asking it, because we've had other people also request this. In fact, so we are gonna allow people to buy subscriptions on behalf of others.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
And then I just wanted to say, because I was very inspired by Chelsea's speech, I very much agree with it. I wanted to just add that one of the biggest things that all these social media people do, and also the governments and everyone else, is also the same thing that you are doing, really, which is creating so much noise and also shooting the messenger. So this is something that I thought gave a lot of people hope. The leaks, the information, we thought there would be a lot of change because of them. But instead, all of the messengers were shot right in front of us. And what's happened ever since is that we sort of given away our privacy and our security in order to, well, our privacy instead of what we thought was security. But instead, we have something much worse. And I think that finally now, maybe people are coming to realize that, but we really do need to get a lot of people a lot more aware of how the messengers were shot and why it's important to remember that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Do you have any comment to that?
Yeah, on that, yeah, so I'm
not all alone up here.
Yeah, okay.
We have our community that are listening in live.
Yeah, of course.
As well.
Yeah, I understand the cynicism that comes with everything that's been going on, because I'm become, a little bit more, I've become a little bit more self-aware of my own cynicism as of late, which is difficult because you have because and we're seeing it already. Like obviously there's headlines in the United States about about a single individual protester being targeted at the very highest level by this, even just the Secretary of State. Our essentially our equivalent of a um, our equivalent of a minister of our foreign minister essentially is targeting a single individual and has plans to escalate that and have that affect more people. So yeah, I totally agree and understand that there is a cynicism with, especially with the noise that we can generate, that is generated by everyone, because it really has, as I was saying earlier, the information that we generate now is mixed in with uh, echoes of humanity, because that's essentially what large language models are. That's essentially what these visual models are. This art stuff. It's echoes of human data. That goes through a essentially a giant game of plinko, like on a probabilistic scale. Like I don't know if I don't know if y'all are familiar with plinko. Uh, it's this disc thing that you drop in, and the way, well, only except the pegs for a plinko board, they're slightly larger depending on the training model and the training weight. So it's more just sort of probabilistic. There's not really, it's a lot of a very simple thing going on, which essentially is I guess how all that's how all like weighted intelligence models work, including ones in nature. But yeah, you're essentially taking human data and you're repeating it and you're echoing it and you're spreading it and you're using an enormous amount of computation to generate a lot of noise. And yeah, that noise is exhausting. It's because it's hard to determine what is important. And so I want to give an example real fast. In 2010, I obviously was an intelligence analyst and I worked in Iraq, and most people know kind of what happened. But it might astound you that today, on my own personal laptop, I look at the world today and I have far more information and far more access to the world and to sensitive information across the world, not even in just a single combat zone, uh, than I ever did in a classified environment in a war zone. Like that's how much information we have, is that even the best intelligence apparatus at the highest level with the most investment in 2010 doesn't compare to the rectangle in your pocket in 2025.
Just a couple of words on who we're actually seeing on screen. So this is, and then you can ask your questions. I saw your hand back there. So this is, we're having a live launch events in a lot of our community members are actually gathered across Latin America and in Ukraine. So, and just to say that they're also around, and if anyone has any questions to them, then feel free to direct it. Who's got the roaming mic? So this gentleman here.
Thanks. Firstly, congratulations on what you've achieved. It's absolutely phenomenal, and it's been a long path, and I really have the greatest respect for what you and your team have done. Just a few weeks ago in this room on that screen, I saw a powerful documentary called Palestine Laboratory. And having seen how you've successfully deployed the technology in Ukraine, in Syria, in Myanmar, I just wondered whether you had any experience with it in another area where there's a huge unmet need, which is Palestine.
I can cover this. Yeah, I mean, we do not. Oh, sorry. We get questions all the time. Like, it's a decentralized network, and so we have people that use it wherever they live, and we are unfortunately, you know, we do not have any servers in Palestine, and we do not, because of the anonymous network, we don't know if we have any users there, and we don't know. I mean, we do know we have a server in Israel. We don't know who runs that, and I do worry a lot. My main concern. So I haven't been to Palestine recently, but I went to Syria. I used to live in Beirut, and I went to visit both Damascus right after the government there fell. I was there like not that so long afterwards. And then I went to northeastern Syria, the Thomas administration, sometimes known as Rojava. And in all of those areas, there are a lot of drones and a lot of warfare and a lot of targeting of civilians. And I just think I have a very principled stance, which is that we should never, ever, in any circumstance, kill civilians. I don't think it's that complicated. Like, you know, and people say, oh, well, maybe it's necessary. And I was like, it's probably not. I was in, you know, like, I don't know. I was in, yeah, it's not like, I mean, you whistleblowed on it. I was, when I was in northeastern Syria, right as the kind of caliphate was being dismantled and destroyed. And, you know, I had to sleep in the bed of a guy whose head got cut off like the night before. And there was truly terrible things happening. Like there were human shields being used. There were there were like everything, the worst possible things were being done. And bless their souls, the local Arabs and the Kurds fought and they suffered huge casualties. And they got rid of Daesh, and now they're under threat. Like they're gonna get probably massacred and betrayed by the U.S. probably pretty quickly, right? So I think in general we should always fight for the right to civilian life. It doesn't matter what side is on. Doesn't matter if it's Israeli. Doesn't matter if it's Palestinian. Doesn't matter if it's I don't know what you would call people from the U.S. Americans a bit broad. Doesn't matter if it's English people or Irish people. You always, because if you don't, the problem is that we are facing a global crisis which is larger than Palestine. It's larger than Israel. It's larger than Syria. It's larger than Ukraine. We have a social, economic, ecological crisis coming our way like a steamroller. And all of us will be regarded at some point as surplus population, as possible dissidents, and we could all be targeted. We don't know who it's going to be. Maybe it's the Trump supporters. Maybe it's independent journalists. Maybe it's the crazy left-wingers. We don't know, right? You never know who's going to come out on top. But the fact of the matter is that you should never normalize the taking of civilian life. Because once that becomes normalized, once people become used to it, it's going to spread, and it's going to spread into the heart of Europe, into the heart of the United States, and no one will be safe. And it's part of the reason we created this technology, so that everyone can be safe. And that's just, you know, how it is. It's rough. I was invited to give a talk in Gaza on like November 10th, and obviously that didn't happen. I've been invited to Israel. We have people on all sides working on mixed nets, interested in blockchain. And it's, we're trying to build essentially not just privacy enhancing technologies, but we do want peace enhancing technologies. And that's it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, whoever, I guess one and then two, I don't know.
Hello. Yes. Hello. Thank you so much. I'm Eslem. I'm a student from a uni encampment in ETH Zurich in Switzerland. And I'm very thankful for you to provide tools that can also benefit us today. One just very practical question. Does this VPN drain more battery than other VPNs?
Yes. Yes, it does, and we're trying to make it less. And the Cambridge people have studies showing that it does indeed drain the battery pretty bad.
Just because, yeah, if you want to use it in like Palestine or places.
Yeah. So
where...
what we I was just there, and we had to do a lot of optimization just to get it working in low connectivity environments. I'm sorry. We did a lot of optimization just to get like working in low connectivity environments. It is working better because I was in Syria and I was like, look, why isn't it working? This is embarrassing. People need to use the fucking internet here. And then people the coders looked at and they optimized a bit. The problem is that if you're sending all of this cover traffic, your phone's on, and so it's wasting your data plan a bit. So that's why you kind of have the fast mode and the mixed net mode. So the fast mode, you can be like, I would like to turn off all of that mixing and that cover traffic, and therefore I will save my data plan, my battery a bit. But who knows? Maybe you're in a war zone. I'm sure many people here have been in war zones. Like the Frontline Club is like famous for being the place war zone reporters hang out. And if that is indeed the case, there are cases where you're like, I don't want to die. Let me turn on my let me turn on my cover traffic on my phone. So we do want that option to be available. That being said, I think it's a very important point, which is that, and this is what we've noticed from looking at users in places like China, is that we do not currently, it's on the plan, it's on the map, we do not disguise that you are when you have like fake noise coming through, you kind of stand out because you have all this noise coming through, and that's also dangerous. And so we're trying to make something so you can like disguise your traffic so it looks like, oh, I'm just surfing the internet, or like, and that goes to like another server, and then we start adding cover traffic and mixing. That's something that we are investigating. We are actively testing it. Anya could give a bunch of details. It is not in the current version of the software. It will be in a version eventually. It's tough because, again, when you do disguise your connection to look like something else, the other side may have an AI machine learning process, and they can look at that connection and eventually figure it out. But then it's kind of like an arms race. So we're part of this arms race, and the more support we get, if you go to crazy countries and you can give us testing information, we'd be like super interested, right? I mean, that's something we're very, very interested in. It was very educational going to Syria. I think everyone's in Ukraine in like 2 or 3 weeks. We're gonna do a bunch of more testing there, and we'll keep testing, and hopefully we don't we get it working more and more. China does not work, also, just so you know. So don't use it in China. Okay.
Yeah, I think the woman in red over there. Yeah.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you. I'm very grateful for the possibility to listening to you today. And you talked about the frontier of online privacy, but there is another frontier of privacy that worries me a lot, and it is the one connected to neurotechnologies. In the past, neurotechnologies were mainly brain-computer interfaces used in the medical field, but nowadays we have a lot of wearable devices that can connect in a non-invasive way to the neural system of the human being. And I've been following as a journalist, unfortunately not as a scientist, just as a journalist, the work of scholars that are pointing out that we are going to need probably new human rights to protect the mental sphere of the human being. And they are talking about concepts like mental privacy, because some of these neurotechnologies can actually decode our feelings, our fears, what we love, what we hate, what we are scared of. So since this will be important, we will have more and more of these devices. My question is there someone in your team who is starting to study also this aspect of privacy? Because we have never had technologies able to read our minds in the history of the human being. So I think it is worth studying it.
Yeah, so I'm going to let Chelsea respond to this, but I think another person that you might want to grab after is Alexis Roussel, who's our COO. He's working on the concept of digital integrity that addresses a lot of these questions. So definitely grab him. But Chelsea?
I have a lot of thoughts on that. There doesn't need to be a human machine interface in order for that to be applicable already. The simple fact of the matter is that your biometrics that you leak every day is enough to be able to invade your privacy. So I think that a lot of people, whenever they think of human machine interfaces, they think of something like a machine with probes going into your nervous system. But the truth of the matter is that it's more cameras and your micro movements, your micro expressions, and those are violations of privacy in and of themselves. And in fact, one of the most intriguing things that I think shocks a lot of people is that it's not facial recognition technology that is used the most in identifying people in crowded areas. It's their gait. It's how they walk. And in fact, intelligence agencies put slight variations inside of their shoe to make them walk funny so that way they can try to try to obscure their identity, because it's the gate. It's how you move in the world. It's how your eyes move. And in fact, as I pointed out earlier, your human machine interface is already on you. It's this little bio measuring device that's in your pocket. You know, most phones have collect your biometric data. It collects how many steps you take. And that data should be sacrosanct, because there's a lot you can do with that data. There's a lot you can do with that data. There's a lot that you can do with the microseconds in terms of like how fast you flick on a particular app, like I was saying earlier. So your biosignature and your mental state is already leaking. It's leaking just your bio indicators from day to day. So yeah, I think that an entirely new concept of privacy needs to be developed out of that. And I'm gonna step away from the sort of the privacy project in terms of what I'm saying here, and it is that, you know, I think one of the issues here is that while we're, yes, NIM and the various privacy tools that we use every day, they're technology and they're tools, and there's a skepticism that comes with technology and tools. I have that skepticism as well, you know, because at the end of the day, even though we can make tools better, there's going to be downsides to having those tools. And I want to hear questions, like I love to hear questions where people go, hey, you know, I don't really know about this kind of technology. I don't know if it's safe. I don't know if it will protect me. That kind of critical analysis, that kind of critical thinking is important to have, because I don't think that technology is going to be the solution that changes the world. I don't think it's going to be the solution that makes things better. I think that what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to reintegrate and re-energize and restructure our society to be able to be more civil with each other, to be more loving to each other, to engage with and to not make every single tiny little aspect of our lives a commodifiable product and a transaction. Like, do you, in your day-to-day life, do you engage with people as humans, or do you engage with them in tiny microtransactions and tiny clicks on a button? Is our so much of life between the ages of I think 11 and the age of 45 now is in whether or not a tiny little icon has been pressed on a phone. Whether or not that happens or not, that's where you derive your value now. How did we get to this state where the value of a relationship is evolved to simply whether or not you put your finger on something that is shaped like a heart or shaped like a thumbs up? Like, that's what our society has become. Is this really the society that we want to live in? And I don't think that there's a technical solution there. I don't think that's a technology problem.
One little point. So just on the neuroscience point, so a lot of contemporary cognitive neuroscience, my PhD advisor, Andy Clark, now at University of Sussex, was at Edinburgh, makes a very good point that our mind, exactly what Chelsea said, our mind is bigger than our brain. Our mind includes the devices we use, the environment we're in, our social relationships. However, that being said, please do not put a chip in your brain. Like, if they want to put a chip in your brain, just leave the country. Don't do it. I see no upside to that whole phenomenon. I think it's absolutely terrifying. If someone wants to put chip in my brain, I will just hide. And you know, it's just, don't do it. There's no upside that's worth that. We don't know what that will do to you.
Right, so we've gonna take 3 more questions. You've had your hand up for quite a while. Or this one here. Hand this one to her, and then she can hand it back.
Hi, my question is for Chelsea and for Harry, and it's more of a workflow question. My name is Manisha Ganguly. I'm an investigations correspondent at The Guardian. I mostly cover war crimes. So my sources and I operate in mostly hostile environments. One of the problems that we face is that you're operating in environments where even having apps like Signal is a criminal offense. So what sort of mechanisms have you put in place to obfuscate having NymVPN on your phone when I'm stopped at a checkpoint or when my source's house gets checked, for example?
Yeah, that's why I try to give you the.
I was trying to. I mean, I could just
take it.
I could just say like first thing, like that's a hard problem, right? So like one of the reasons this app was originally created is because we had sources in 2011, not sources, people, friends, and in Syria, who were using things like Skype, and then like the government of Bashar al-Assad would come in and be like, oh look, yeah, I can see you communicating Skype, and then they could put in prison and then die a few years later. So we know that's a real problem. I was just in Syria like a few weeks ago when the border is a little scary, right? You have a bunch of dudes from Idlib kind of running the border, and I would just do very standard stuff. I would hide the app using the kind of standard iPhone hidden functions, and that would, if you're dealing with a relatively unsophisticated adversary like jihadi border guards, you're probably okay. If you're dealing with a sophisticated adversary, they could probably pretty easily torture you, rubber hose you, as Julian would say, to make you unlock your phone and then see, oh, give me the code or your face so I can get to your hidden apps. That is not something that we have solved. We are currently discussing trying to make ways to hide things better. One of the only advantages that we have is because we're slightly newer technology, and because we're slightly newer technology. This is just very geeky for anyone who's like super into geekiness. But we can actually compile the client. Like the app is just like it's easy to use, right? But because it can all compile down to what's called WebAssembly or JavaScript, we can run the whole thing in a browser, open a browser, do whatever you have to do anonymously, and then close the browser, and then it's gone. And that's a design goal. The app is not like that, but we have APIs and SDKs that let people do that. We had some devs that built something called PasteNym that was that. You could like leak something, paste it, and it was in a web browser, Windows, you could shut it. I would love more people to work on that. I mean, we have just unfortunately like only so much time, but we are discussing this with other groups as well. It is a hard problem. I do honestly think the solution probably is it's going to be very hard to get Apple and Google to like change how their phones work. I think the answer probably is something like what I just discussed, which we're trying to enable, which is you can use things from a browser window and shut down, and then ideally like clean your history basically. But it's tough. I agree, it's a tough issue, and there needs to be more education about it.
Great. I know there's a question here up front, and then we'll take okay, two more.
Hello, thank you to the NYM team and to Chelsea especially. My question concerns access. So I'm worried about digital literacy and about digital exclusion. So there are whole swathes of society who wouldn't be involved in getting VPNs for themselves. So I'd like to find out what NYM is doing to access those communities.
Yeah. Yeah, like, well, I think we all have thoughts on that, but so first of all, the reason we built a VPN was to be accessible, because we are seeing a growing VPN market. Of course, for a lot of people, even thinking about a VPN is already kind of complicated and sounds technical. That is why, and I think Anya spoke very well about that earlier, that is why the ultimate ambition is actually for NYM to be integrated into everyday applications that people are using otherwise. So, an email client or a messaging app or whatever that they're used to, so that their traffic can be protected and they don't even need to think about it. So that's the ultimate goal. The VPN is the kind of first, let's say, demonstrator to show that this is a new technology and it works, and it's very clear that it works, and that it's something that the VPN market can understand, and then from there for it to become a kind of default routing network that is integrated into people's everyday applications. Anyone want to add anything?
I would say that like some of the people who some of the, like, it's not impossible to imagine a future where the internet's private by default. It's actually not. And we know this because before Snowden, the internet wasn't like even encrypted, right? So I used to work for the World Wide Web Consortium. We did what's called web standards. So it's just like what you get on your phone and your browser by default. And it used to be, it was completely unencrypted. So like you could just like steal people's passwords in cafes. I mean, it was amazing. Like, and this is not like, This is like not very long ago. This is like 2011, 12, right? And then like after the Snowden revelations, governments were like, oh, maybe it's okay to spy on people. Okay, maybe that was a bit much. There was like a lot of waffling, I would say. But the engineering community got together and said, we have to fix this. And the engineering community combined with a lot of large platforms and banks who were like, this is crazy. Everyone did deploy, thanks to the efforts of people like Ben Laurie and Karthik Bhargavan and all the Internet Engineering Task Force, made it so that we went from like 20% of the traffic on the internet being encrypted to like about 95%, I think, today over like a 5 to 10 year run, something like that. More, even more. Like basically, it's very hard. In fact, it makes it hard to use Wi-Fi in airports sometimes. It's hard to get non-encrypted traffic. And we think eventually the same thing can happen with privacy enhanced traffic. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be a push. We've seen it happen in the past. It is at least possible or conceivable it happens in the future. Because I think the real way you solve these problems is not by building an app. The real way is that people's ordinary computer use should be private by default, because that's what you imagine is when I'm using my phone, I'm not imagining that I'm sharing it with friggin' Elon Musk or the NSA or God help us, Keir Stormer. That doesn't occur to most people, right? I mean, who knows what he's going to do with it, but you know, like it's just not in my mental model. It's like I'm using my phone, I'm talking to Chelsea talking to me. I imagine only she has access to that conversation, and that's how it should be, and that's the default that we want. But it's going to be a long struggle.
Okay, so we're gonna limit it to 2 more questions. I'm sorry, and there's a couple of hands that I've seen up quite a while. But just before we get to that, we should obviously continue the conversation later. So first of all, thank you very much to the Frontline Club. I think the Frontline Club is still serving drinks downstairs. But also, we have a kind of small after party at Newspeak House. So we're all going to be heading there immediately after this event, and you're welcome to join us there for more drinks and more conversation. But there's one question at the back there. Yeah, guy with the black glove there, and then we'll go to you after. Yep.
Hi, this goes back to the fundamental structure of NymVPN. One of the challenges in using any VPN these days is the providers have become wise to the fact that you can escape all of their telemetry and stuff using a VPN. So a lot of sites will automatically block you if they think your IP is associated with a VPN. You go into a hotel or an airport, and again, typically, like when you need a VPN, is those kind of situations when you're out there, you don't trust the network. And a lot of those situations, they're automatically going to try to prevent you from using a VPN to connect. So have you thought about this problem and tried to get around it?
Harry?
Okay, I mean, I'll just be very brief. Yes, we have thought about a lot. Right now, because the nice thing is a decentralized network. So if one thing is blocked, people are like, oh my God, it's blocked. I'm like, dude, you can like select the computer in the country, just try a few others. Probably one will get through. That's unfortunately not the best answer in the world, but it's the best we have right now. And we imagine a world where we have many more people who are doing this, and the general thinking is that if we have a large crowd of people who are sharing internet connections and helping each other out, you can only block things if you know about them, and if it's constantly growing, constantly changing, it's harder to block.
Good. And then there's the question here, right here. Who has the roaming mic? Yep. Could you? Thank you.
Hello? Hello? Yeah, you can hear me? Okay. It's probably an impossible question to answer, but, in an era in a few years' time where there will be quantum computing with gazillions times of, things that can be done, will any form of privacy just become quite simply impossible?
So maybe I'll address that. So post-quantum security, with post-quantum computers, the cryptographic primitives which are using currently, they cannot stand. However, there is already a lot of research done on post-quantum security and how to add post-quantum security into various cryptographic primitives. And actually, on our roadmap for 2025, adding post-quantum security into the NymVPN is one of the key features which we want to add. And it involves, all the cryptographic primitives which we are using, whether it's related to the protocols which encrypt the communication links between the nodes, or there is a cryptographic packet format which we're using to route the traffic. So it's definitely something what we'll be very heavily pushing on this year.
One of the things that was in my conversation in 2016 was about post-quantum cryptography in particular, which is cryptography that isn't based on prime number. It gets really technical, but like prime numbers are used in the most frequent thing, and then there's also elliptical curves, which are just this sort of theoretical mathematical curve thing that's going on, in which quantum computing can also speed up the amount of time that it takes. But but one of the difficulties in terms of implementing a post-quantum algorithm is that nobody's yet agreed on which post-quantum computing algorithm. So it's not that we didn't think about it; it's that which one was in the lead of which one was going to take the crown. Essentially, was still up in the air whenever we were designing this. So
great. So I think to wrap it up, we actually have quite a lot of the NIM team also here. And they're very much part of this. So if maybe you could like stand up or come up to the stage. So like as a kind of final thank you thank you so much to the audience for being so patient. Hey.
The Frontline Club, as everyone knows, was a safe haven for journalists and whistleblowers for so many years. It really deserves all of your support. Please become a member. And thanks for everyone for coming.
So it's been a very hot evening. It's a crowded room. So thanks again for the patience. And drinks downstairs. And then for those who are interested to come to New Speak House, which is all the way east near Brick Lane, you can grab a hold of one of the team members to try and find out how. We're going to be jumping in some cabs later on. But yeah, do join us and have a drink and continue the conversation.